Missouri Democrat and squad member Cori Bush is now under federal investigation over her alleged misuse of government funds meant for security.
Okay, so Cori Bush is under investigation for washing money, something that's typical among these Washington, D.C. politicians who are a bunch of criminals. They steal money on a regular basis from the American people. So Cori Bush, years ago, Cori Bush hired her husband, her now husband, a guy she was sleeping with at the time, to be her campaign security guard. So she paid this man a boatload of money, campaign funds, to provide security for her, but she was also in a relationship with this man, meaning that she was benefiting from the money that she was spending with this guy. She and her husband were basically money laundering, washing money, getting rich. Let's take a look at this news clip.
We're following some breaking news from Capitol Hill. Missouri Democratic Congresswoman Cori Bush has just confirmed that she is being investigated by the Justice Department for misusing campaign funds and spending them on security services. The Congresswoman says she is fully cooperating. NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian is tracking this for us. Ken, what else do we know about this Department of Justice investigation, and what is the Congresswoman saying?
Well, Kate, we know that at least 2 FEC complaints were filed against Representative Bush last year, questioning payments her campaign made for security to a man she later married. One complaint said that those payments could be considered an illegal conversion of campaign funds for personal use, and it appears that the Justice Department may be looking into that question. In a statement, Representative Bush said that since before she was sworn into office, she'd been the subject of threats, and she added that as a rank-and-file member of Congress, I'm not entitled to personal protection by the House, and instead have used campaign funds as permissible to retain security services. She acknowledged that she retained the man who became her husband as part of her security team, quote, because he has extensive experience in this area and is able to provide the necessary services at or below a fair market rate. She said she followed all applicable rules. Now, an NBC News review of Bush campaign expenditures found that she has spent $756,000 on security since her first run for Congress in the 2018 cycle, Kate.
And Ken, are we hearing anything from congressional leaders or other members of Congress about this investigation?
Congressional leaders have been conspicuously lacking in comment. They've all been asked and they've all declined. The Justice Department has declined to comment, as is its policy on any pending investigation, Kate.
All right.
So now she's under investigation by the DOJ, by Biden's DOJ, surprisingly, but not so much surprisingly, and we're going to get to that in a second. But now the DOJ and the Republicans can present proper evidence to oust her. And with the new standards, they said they just ousted George Santos. The man wasn't even charged with a crime, wasn't convicted of anything. But the ethics committee told the House, look, this man needs to go. So is the ethics committee, after they come back with evidence that hundreds of thousands of dollars of public campaign money and other taxpayer funds went to a politician's husband, so the politician was spending this money to allegedly have security for herself, but the money was going to her own household. Insane. I guess we'll see what happens with the ethics committee, because things are always different when it comes to Republicans versus Democrats, even the uniparty, even the Republicans, who are extremely weak and soft. When it comes to Republicans versus Democrats and ethics, the Democrats seem to get away with way more than what the Republicans get away with. So I guess we'll see what happens with this. But we knew about this years ago. We've been calling for the Republicans to get rid of her for the longest, but some years ago, she was asked about this exorbitant spending. She was asked about spending money on campaign funds for security, while she was also going around talking about, oh, defund the police, these private citizens, everyday citizens, they don't need so many police in their neighborhoods protecting them. So we need to defund the police, give it over to social programs and crap like that. But at the same time, she was spending money for her own protection because she thinks that she's better than the average citizen. Let's take a look.
You faced some criticism in recent weeks over your push to defund the police. The campaign records show that you spent roughly $70,000 on private security, and some critics say that move is hypocritical. What's your response to those critics?
They would rather I die? You would rather me die? Is that what you want to see? You want to see me die?
Wow. Wow. So she's talking about, oh, you want me to die? What do you want to happen to the everyday citizens when there are not enough police officers, when 911 responses take way longer than what they should? Something's happening to somebody, they need help right away. But she's spending public money to protect herself because she thinks she's better. But the Democrats, they knew about this just like we knew about it, but they always protect their own. When these corrupt Democrats get into whatever, they're washing money, getting rich, because they're all getting rich, they protect each other. They lie for each other. They go to bat for each other until they're no longer useful. But these Democrats also keep dirt on each other just in case they need to get rid of somebody. Look at Eric Adams in New York, how they protected him and his sanctuary city status, how he's soft on crime, even though he's a former cop in New York. It was all good with Eric Adams running New York, and so he started speaking out against Joe Biden. We got Bob Menendez, who was also running corruption in the Senate. They got rid of him. So they keep this dirt for years. They'll keep dirt on these Democrats until the Democrat is no longer useful. And in the case of Cori Bush, she's been publicly dragged out because the Democrats see her as a liability. She's no longer useful because for years she played the useful idiot. She walked around talking about, oh, Trump is racist. He's the racist in chief or whatever crap, white supremacist in chief, something like that. And she also called for defunding the police while people in St. Louis, her own neighborhood, were being ravaged. Neighborhoods were being ravaged. People getting mud, carjacked, and all of that. And even in these black neighborhoods in St. Louis, these people were asking for more police while she was calling to defund the police. So she played the useful idiot. And now she's siding with Palestine and this whole Israel-Gaza thing. Let's take a look.
Together we grieve and mourn the 1,200 Israelis brutally murdered and the 250 people taken hostage by Hamas on October 7th. We grieve and we mourn the over 11,000 Palestinians, 2/3 of them women and children, who have been killed in Gaza and the West Bank by the Israeli government. We grieve and mourn the depraved, unconscionable attacks on places of refuge, including schools and health facilities and places of worship as the world watches. We grieve the babies in incubators being left there to die. You shouldn't have to go on a ceasefire, on a hunger strike in order to demand the United States government facilitate a permanent ceasefire. You shouldn't have to starve yourselves in order to tell the United States government to stop its complicity in the starving of millions of people in Gaza. You shouldn't have to risk your health and your well-being to draw attention to the tens of thousands of people who have been killed and will continue to be killed if we don't enact a permanent ceasefire now. Palestinians, as my sister said several days ago, as you said, Rep. Tlaib, Palestinians are not disposable. We must lift the siege on Gaza. We must end the military occupation, dismantle the apartheid system, and hold to account all those responsible for human rights abuses.
See, that type of rhetoric, that doesn't work well for the Zionists, these pro-Zionist lobbies in D.C. who buy and sell politicians all the time. These guys have bought most politicians on both sides of the aisle. And Cori Bush is going against their agenda. She's speaking out strongly against their Zionist views and what they want DC to look like. So they're like, okay, we don't like this, and you guys need to bring up some dirt on her so we can get rid of her. So when you start popping off at the mouth like that, saying that Israel is a apartheid state, these politicians who have been brainwashed, who love Israel, and a lot of them love Israel more than they love their own country. And a lot of them are not so brainwashed. They actually know exactly what they're doing. But like I said, they're paid for and bought by these pro-Zionist lobbies. They look at somebody like Cori Bush and they're like, all right, you got to go. So she made her money, even though whatever the hell she took needs to be stripped. She needs to be fined heavily, spend some time in jail for this. But yeah, your career is over. You talked all your trash. Oh, Trump is racist. Oh, defund the police. I'm going to pay for private security with an individual that I'm in a relationship with so we can wash some money and get rich. But hey, your time is up, so you got to go. Let me know what you guys think about this. Leave me your thoughts below. Share the video. Thanks for watching.